So initially, as we go on with this module, I would like to just go through the course outcomes. So because this is the last module that you have in this particular uh, semester, we'll just revise what are the course outcomes and that we have covered the first 5 course outcomes. So course outcome 1 is apply various concepts of aesthetics and ergonomics while designing a vehicle body. So this we have covered in module number 1. Course outcome 2 is apply various concepts of aerodynamics while designing a vehicle body. This particular course outcome we have addressed in module number 2. Course outcome 3, 4 and 5 similarly. So course outcome 3 for classifying different types of bus body constructions, and course outcome 4 for classifying different types of commercial vehicles as per application. So we have addressed these 2 course outcomes in module 3 and 4. Then finally course outcome 5, select materials for different components of a vehicle. This particular course outcome has been addressed while delivering module number 5, and the last course outcome is course outcome 6, which is to design vehicle body for different loading conditions. And this particular course outcome we are going to address in this module, which is module number 6. So all those who are not here or who have joined the session without a notebook or a pen, I would like to request you to just get a notebook and a page, or maybe anything that you can scribble notes on with a pen, because there are going to be some derivations in this particular module number 6 which you might have to note down. So only listening is not going to help you out. Moving on, what is the topic learning outcome? So you have got one simple topic learning outcome for module number 6, which is to design vehicle body with respect to different loads on the vehicle. So as we already discussed, we are addressing course outcome 6 using this topic learning outcome, and the Bloom's taxonomy level is level 3. Okay. With the contents that you're going to cover in this particular module are divided into 4 lectures, which are shown here. So first we start off with different loading situations. Secondly, we go on for the chassis frame design in the second lecture. In the third lecture, we're going to study something known as a simple structural surface, and using this simple structural surface, how do we analyze any vehicle body for structural analysis, which can be either in torsion or bending. Okay, so there are different loading situations. So we are going to be studying in detail a vehicle which is in torsion or bending. So lecture 3 is dedicated to structural analysis of a van using simple surface or simple structural surface method, wherein the van is in torsion, and the last lecture of this particular module and semester is dedicated to structural analysis of a saloon car, which is in bending using SSS or simple structural surface method. So 2 different vehicles and 2 different loading conditions. Using SSS method, we're going to analyze and be having some equations that is going to be a part of this particular module. So we'll start with the first lecture for this particular module. So the first one is introduction to the module. So any vehicle that you have on the roads, which is in a running condition or dynamic condition, it is going to have various types of loads. So these loads again are divided into 2 different parts. It might have a vehicle which is going to have a transverse loading because of the vehicle traveling on uneven ground. So it might not be the case that wherever you're going to travel with your vehicle, that the ground that you have is a plain surface. So there are going to be bumps or potholes or conditions or situations where you might have to take one side of your vehicle. So if it's a 4-wheeler that you're driving, so because of the oncoming traffic or some obstructions on the road, there might be situations where the vehicle has to go, or let us say 2 tires, maybe left hand side or right hand side tires. Generally, because here in India we follow a left hand drive, so it would be definitely the left hand side drivers which might go, or wheels which might go off the road. So that is going to create a condition wherein the vehicle is not on even ground. Okay, so and that is going to have a load shift that might happen. So it is going to be a lateral load shift in this case. In case you are going to accelerate or brake your vehicle, in that case it is going to be a longitudinal load shift from the front to the rear axle or from the rear to the front axle. So whenever you brake your vehicle, the load transfer is going to happen in dynamic conditions from the rear axle to the front axle. And whenever you accelerate your vehicle, the load transfer is going to be happening from the front axle to the rear axle in dynamic conditions. Then again, it can be maneuvers which are being performed by driver. So in case the vehicle has to go on a turn, okay, or there is some turning which is required, either left or right turn, or if the road is not straight. So in that case, obviously, you will find that you might have to move your vehicle or steer your vehicle towards left or right as per the conditions that you have in driving. And this is again going to cause some shift which is going to happen in case of the load. So like we all know, if the vehicle is trying to take a turn, it might be the case that due to the centrifugal forces, the outside wheels are maybe loaded more than the inside wheels. So these are the load transfers that might happen because of the driver steering the vehicle, right? So these again load transfer you're going to be studying in detail in the next semester under the course vehicle dynamics, right? So some part of it we are going to cover here also, like we did for module number 2 under vehicle aerodynamics. So we have calculated what are the road loads for aerodynamic conditions. So similarly, we are going to calculate these load transfers in case of different road conditions or maneuvers which are being done by the driver. So going on, we have got 5 basic load cases. We have got the first case, which is known as a bending case, then a torsion case. In some cases, you might have both bending as well as torsion load, which is going to take place or which is going to be felt by the vehicle. Then you have got lateral loading. So I have discussed about lateral loading just a few minutes back. And finally, you have got fore and aft loading. So we'll study in details about all these loads and conditions in which these loads are typically seen. Okay, and then we're going to study the first 2 cases like I discussed for bending case and torsion case, how to find out what are the different loads on your vehicle. So I hope I'm clear till here. Questions coming up? So like you see, you have got different loading situations that you might have. So these are the different loading situations. The first one that you have is vertical bending. So this is particularly going to happen whenever the vehicle is loaded. So as you can see in the diagram on the bottom right corner, you can see we are having a 4-wheeled vehicle on which you have got the chassis which is being let us say loaded with a vertical load at the center of the vehicle, right? So these loads can be again because of the cargo that you have or luggage that you have in the vehicle or the passengers which are going to be sitting inside the vehicle, right? So this is a bending scenario wherein the vehicle is going to be subjected or the chassis is going to be subjected to vertical bending. So like mentioned here, the passengers and luggage is concentrated across the middle of its wheelbase. In general, this load, if you consider vehicle dynamics, it is going to be considered at the center of gravity of the vehicle. So it is not essential that it is at the middle of the vehicle or longitudinally at the center of the vehicle, right? So just for representation purpose, we have shown it here at the center or the center of the wheelbase, right? Then vertical bending is going to make them sag in the central region. So because of this type of load, the chassis is going to feel this load at maybe the CZF, center of gravity, or at the middle, and it is going to make the chassis bend, right? So that's the reason why again the chassis has to be very strong enough to sustain this type of loading that you have. Okay. So we'll go ahead and check out other different loading situations. So just to be or discuss in detail about bending, you'll find that due to the loading in the vertical XZ plane that you have. So I hope you have already discussed the X, Y, and Z axis that you have or planes. So with respect to the vehicle, if you see this particular diagram that you have, you will find that X, Y, and Z are defined as per the SAE convention. Okay, so this bending load that you have, it is going to be due to the weight of the components along the vehicle frame. So you can see that at different locations on this particular, I believe, vehicle that has been shown, you'll find that the loads have been defined using arrows. Okay, red arrows vertically downwards. So you start with the engine, then you got occupants, then some payload or luggage, and finally you got fuel tank. So all these are going to be uh, having a bending effect on the vehicle's chassis, right? And then you also have some other forces, so at the wheels and or the wheel and road contact. So what you see here is that there is a reaction that is going to be seen, okay, from the ground, and then you also have braking forces or acceleration or traction forces, right? So static condition, whenever the vehicle is in standing position, this can be treated as a 2D beam problem, right? And you also have something known as sprung and unsprung masses. So sprung and unsprung masses are defined again in vehicle dynamics as any mass which is below the suspension is known as unsprung mass. Okay, so this has to be corrected. It's not below the chassis, but after the suspension, any mass that you have is known as unsprung mass. So typically your wheel assembly is an unsprung mass, and in static condition, they do not impose any load on the chassis. Okay, so that's how this particular slide has been made. So this just wants to say, or what is being said here is that there is no load on the chassis because of unsprung mass, right? So sprung mass is anything above the suspension that you have will be known as a sprung mass. Right? So I hope this is clear to you. Consider dynamic loading that is going to be occurring. So this is going to be the inertia of the structure which is going to contribute in total loading. And obviously a dynamic load is always going to be higher than a static load. Okay. So in typically, if you see a road vehicle which is traveling at high speeds, the dynamic loading can be approximately 2.5 or 3 times the static load, right? So this is going to be making or uh, giving quite severe loading on your vehicle chassis. So that's the reason why you need to make sure that the overall vehicle body is designed in such a way that it is able to sustain these loads. And now if you go for off-road vehicles, from the ATVs, in that case, you might have dynamic loading, which can be even 4 times the static loading that you have. So that's the reason why you'll find that most of the ATVs, they are designed in such a way that they are more durable and strong. So what happens in this ATV case is that, so due to that, it has to be designed to take up very high loads. So example, in case of static loads, the vehicle is at rest, or sometimes you might even have constant velocity on even road. Okay, but these are different conditions actually, but the loading is going to be less as compared to dynamic loads. So again, in case of static loads, you can solve using the static equilibrium balance. So if you are supposed to find out what is the uh, loads on each of the axles or each of the tires, you need to make sure that you know the equations which can be used for finding out the loads. And then in case of dynamic loading, you have got a vehicle which is moving on a bumpy road even at either constant velocity, or it might be also accelerating, right? So you don't know what is the actual condition. You need to find out the condition, and according to that, you have to actually find out what are the loads. Okay, so dynamic axle load transfer is something that is going to help you out to find out the dynamic loading. So again, this can be solved using dynamic equilibrium balance, and it might result in differential equations. So in this particular lecture, we are also going to see how to find out the loads on each of the axles. Okay, so it is quite simple. If you are good with your applied mechanics or 12th class physics, you might find it quite easy to actually solve for these loads. Right? Is a loading situation in which the vehicle is subjected to longitudinal torsion. So you can see a diagram that you have on the right bottom side. So you can see that it is not traveling on a plain road for one of the wheels that you have. So let us say the vehicle is traveling in this direction. The arrow has been shown. So there are two wheels, left frontal wheel and right rear wheel. You can see that it is being subjected to or going over a speed breaker or hump on the road. And whenever you have got such a case that diagonally opposite road wheels are rolling over bumps simultaneously, the vehicle is said to be subjected to a longitudinal torsion, right? In which case the vehicle will be under torsion, has been shown using this particular diagram. So you can see that at each of the wheels, you have got a reaction, right? And whenever the wheel is going to or vehicle is going to traverse on uneven roads, you might get a condition where torsion load is being applied on the vehicle body. So the front and rear axle, they're going to experience a moment. So this movement has been shown in this particular diagram, right? So you can see that on the front right hand side wheel, you have got a downward reaction, which is Rf upon 2. Then you have got the track width T, and on the front left hand side wheel, you have got upward reaction or force, which is Rf upon 2. So Rf is nothing but the overall reaction that you have on the front axle. It can be also denoted as Wf. So Rf and Wf are going to be same. And then at the rear axle, which is shown using green color, you are going to see that there is a load Rr upon 2 and Rr upon 2. Again, on the right rear wheel, you are going to see that it's an upward force, and on the left rear wheel, it is going to be a downward reaction. And then this creates a moment. So this moment has been shown along the x-axis. So what you see over here or shown in the green arrow. So this moment is nothing but a torsion load that you see. So a pure simple torsion is somewhere or a situation where you got a torque which is applied to one axle and reacted by another axle. So in this particular condition, you have got the front axle which has got anti-clockwise torque. So you can see here, this is an anti-clockwise torque. If you're trying to view it from this direction, from the front view, it's an anti-clockwise torque. And the rear axle is going to balance this particular torque with a clockwise torque. You can see here, this is anti-clockwise torque and there is a clockwise torque on the rear axle. The result in this particular case is that the torsion moment is going to be about the x-axis, right? So in reality, the torsion is always accompanied by a bending, which is due to the gravity. So you will never have a vehicle which is subjected to pure torsion. So whenever there is going to be a torsion case, it is going to be accompanied by a bending case, right? A case wherein you have got combined bending and torsion. So again, like I told you in the previous slide, the reason why we are going to be studying this particular loading is that you are never going to have a pure torsion case. So in reality, it is going to be a case where you have both combined bending and torsion, right? So bending and torsion loads are seen in this particular case. So again, we are going to assume that these loads are linear. Okay. So superimposition is like whenever you have got both bending as well as torsion load, you add both these loads together and then you have got a superimposed final figure. So the figure that you see in this particular case here is a condition where both bending as well as torsion load are superimposed and you have got reactions which are addition of these two loads, right? So as you can see here, one of the wheels that you have is lightly loaded along the axle and is raised on a bump, right? So in this particular condition, what you see is that one wheel that you have is slightly above the ground. Then all loads of the lighter axle is applied to one wheel, and due to the nature of resulting loads, the loading symmetry with respect to the XZ plane is lost. So the XZ plane is this plane, the vertical plane, which is going to pass through the vehicle body. And if you're going to cut your vehicle body along this plane, you will get a cross section which is going to be along the longitudinal axis X, right? So then you can find out R dash R by having some equations for the moment balancing. And again, R dash R is the force which is going to stabilize the structure by increasing the reaction force, right? So if you see this particular vehicle, you can see that all the different tires at the different points of contacts, right? So on the frontal left hand side tire that you have, the reaction is RF. Okay, that is the reaction on the front axis. And then on the right tire that you have, you're seeing that there is no reaction from the ground. Okay, so what is being shown here is that the entire load that you have on the front axle, RF, or WF is the load and RF is the reaction from the ground, that is being taken up by the front left hand side wheel. Okay, and no load is being taken up by the front right hand side wheel. So the entire weight on the front axle is being carried by the front left hand side wheel. So this is the condition, real life condition where this might happen. Okay, so the condition is that in case this particular tire, the frontal right hand side tire, is slightly above the road surface, correct? So I hope I'm able to describe the real life condition that is going to occur on the vehicle. And then you have got the rear axle, wherein both the tires, the rear left hand side tire and the rear right hand side tire, are taking up the load equally. That's the reason why the reaction at the left rear tire is RR plus R dash R upon 2, and the reaction at right rear tire is RR plus R dash R upon 2. And then this is the condition where you have got combined bending and torsion. Again, I'll repeat, if there are any doubts, you please raise them right now. I see that there are no doubts. We might as well go ahead. So in case of another type of loading situation that might occur is a lateral loading situation. So wherever you have got side wind forces or a centrifugal force, it might be resulting in a lateral loading condition. Okay, so there is a comma which is missing here. So it is either a side wind force or a centrifugal force. So as the vehicle is trying to turn, or it is trying to corner, that means it is trying to take either a left or right turn, or in case there is a collision with any of the objects. So definitely what you can see is that if there is a side impact, right, so like a side crash that might happen, that is again a lateral loading situation. So obviously we don't want the vehicle to undergo that particular situation. But apart from that, lateral load shift might also occur whenever you are trying to take a turn, or if you're trying to move your vehicle on a curved road. So you might have a force which is going to shift the load. In case in this particular force, if the side force is upwards, that means loading from these two wheels is going to be shifted to these two wheels. So like as you have for braking and acceleration, where load is going to transfer from front axle to the rear axle, or from the rear axle to the front axle. In case of lateral loading, it is going to transfer from left side towards right side, or from right side towards left side. So that's the difference between lateral load transfer and longitudinal load transfer. Right. So that's again one more thing that you find in this particular diagram is that the side force is shown acting at the center of gravity. So it's very essential that you need to first find out what is the location of the center of gravity of your vehicle. Unless and until the location of CG is known to the designer, he or she might not be able to calculate what are the different loads on different axles and different tires if you want. Right? A condition wherein lateral loading is shown. So like we discussed earlier, this might happen due to cornering, and it is generated at the tire ground contact patch. So these are the patches. It's a rough sketch that has been shown here. To be detailed, you can see over here. So at the tire road contact patch, you're going to find this type of loading, which is going to be seen. So it is one of the most important areas. So all the forces that are generated, they are generated at this tire road contact patch or tire to ground contact patch. And that's the reason why tires play a very important role as far as a vehicle is concerned. So they help you in braking, they help you in acceleration. They definitely help you whenever you're trying to corner or take a turn, or in any case that you have, the first impact load from the ground is going to be taken up by the tire. So again, one of the reasons why you need to make sure that your tires are properly inflated with the correct amount of pressure is that it is going to help to make sure that you have got a very good ride quality. Okay, so ride quality is definitely affected by the tire pressure or the loading that you have on each of the tires. So again, this lateral loading that is seen is also most of the time seen in case of centrifugal forces. So mv square by r is the force that is going to make this lateral loading come into effect. So whenever the inside wheel reaction becomes 0 to the vehicle rollover, you can find lateral loading is going to take place. The centrifugal acceleration that you have, which is v square upon r, is going to be equal to g into t upon 2h. So g is nothing but the acceleration due to gravity. T is the track width, which has been shown over here. The distance between left wheel and right wheel is the track width. So this is the rear view of your vehicle that you are